I said this to someone the other day since he was talking about how he felt, and I told him, who the hell cares how you feel? He asked me, what do you mean? I said, well, I don't care. I'll talk to You're telling me this, I know you, and I don't care, so all the people who don't know you, they don't care. The woman you want doesn't care. You can't go talk to a girl at a bar and say, I'm usually charming, but today I'm a bit sad. Could you give me a moment? Get the hell out of here, weirdo. The girl you want doesn't care. The job where you're supposed to perform doesn't care. If the man who wants to rob you decides to pull out a machete, he doesn't care. You can't tell him, bro, I'm not in the mood to fight today. Maybe tomorrow, please. Nobody cares. So why the hell do you care? All the people in this world don't care about you, but you're going to sit there and worry being the only person in the world who does care. You're going to walk around telling everyone, trying to find someone who gives a damn? Good luck with that, because what will happen is you'll walk around feeling sorry for yourself, trying to find someone who pretends to care just enough for you to get a little dopamine. But overall, you're wasting your time in a hyper-competitive world where people like me, who act without considering how we feel, will perpetually bury you. Then you'll sit there and wake up wondering why you're a loser. Well, it's because when Andre was sad, he kept going. When Andrew was in jail, his business didn't crumble. He did push-ups every day and his body didn't fall apart. Nothing in his life deteriorated while he was in a cell surrounded by cockroaches. And you're in a comfortable bed at home crying for no reason, expecting to compete in the hyper-competitive male world. As a man, you're not allowed to give that much importance to how you feel. You don't have time to worry about that because you have too much to do. That's why I find it remarkable. If I feel sad, I don't think about how to stop feeling sad. I just go to work. I have things to do every day. I'm a man. I have things to do every day. The reason discouragement affects so many people is because depression is an externalization. And externalizing your problems is the number one issue, the main plague of modern society. Everyone looks for a reason to externalize their problems. I drink too much alcohol, so I'm an alcoholic. No, you get up, get money, dress up, go to the store, talk to the clerk, choose what you want, put it in the bag, walk home, unlock the door, pour it into a glass, and drink it. That's your fault. Don't say it's the alcohol. That's you making a bad decision. Oh, I'm fat because of this. But you still eat cake and ice cream. Just stop doing stupid things. Everyone looks for a reason to externalize, and depression is a fantastic way to do it because no matter what's wrong in your life, you can always have an excuse. I'm a loser. My life's a mess. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have money. I don't have a good job. I'm stuck at home. Nobody cares about me. I'm depressed. Well, you're depressed because of your situation, which you refuse to change. You think your situation is like this because you're depressed, but people have it backward in my opinion. If you were running a camp to overcome depression, how would you pull people out of that depressive mindset? You'd pull them out of their sadness by making them understand the harsh realities of the world. And the harsh reality of the world is that life doesn't give a damn about who you are. Life doesn't give a damn about anyone. Doesn't care who you are. If a lion goes hunting for gazelles in the sea or on land and you're relaxing, watching a bunch of antelopes in the corner, when the lions start chasing the antelopes, they'll catch the slowest and weakest ones. The babies, the sick ones, the ones with a broken leg. They don't give a damn. They won't say, oh, that one is sick, we can't eat it, or, well, that one didn't have breakfast, so it's unfair to chase it. Life doesn't care. The lion catches the slowest antelope, and life is exactly the same. But some people argue we're not animals, and that's the difference between humans and the animal kingdom, empathy. Yes, and actually being empathetic to people is an evolutionary advantage. I completely understand that, but my analogy isn't referring to other people as lions, it's referring to life as the lion. Life is a lion. So you have to decide which antelope you want to be. Because just like the lion, life doesn't care who's at the back of the herd. You have to decide whether you want to be at the back and wait for the lions, hoping they'll pity you when they're hungry, while you tell them all your excuses just before they tear out your throat. Or you can make sure you're the one at the front by any means necessary. That's a choice you have to make. And when people truly understand that and stop externalizing their problems, they'll see there are two options. Either externalize your problems or believe you have control over them. You have to make a choice. You can change how your life is, absolutely. So, I'm depressed, I'm unhappy. Why are you unhappy? Because of X reason. Why is that? Well, who are you going to change? Because if you don't, no one else will. Nobody's going to come into your life, knock down the door and say, ta-da, I'm going to fix you, get you a great job, and give you an attractive woman. That's never going to happen. We should do a show where we go save people's lives, but people don't want to do the hard work. And that's how they ended up depressed in the first place. They want an excuse. And the reason people get so upset and angry is that I attack their belief systems. I can attack someone's belief in God. That's their worldview, and it shapes everything they do. If someone believes in ghosts, everything they do is influenced by that belief. And when you attack someone's belief, they become desperate to defend it. But there's a large body of evidence and opinions that claim depression exists. Well, that's true, but interestingly, since that time, I've done quite a bit of research, and there's also a large body of evidence that says it doesn't exist. So, morally speaking, I've been depressed, and bad things happen to everyone. But you have the choice to let it consume you. So how did I overcome my unhappiness? Well, I got over it because I realized it's the only option. I mean, what was the method you used? I don't think there's a specific method. You just have to be tough with yourself about the realities of the world. Life doesn't care about you. The people you tell your problems to don't actually care about them, and you have to end that once and for all. Bad things happen to everyone. They will happen to everyone, and in the end, we're all going to die. So you have two options. Let the bad things consume you, or wake up one day and say, enough is enough. And you have to keep going. What's amazing is that when I say this to people, they say, oh, you're crazy. But that's exactly how everyone in the world operated until this new modern nonsense thinking came along. Until this new era of thought arrived, nobody ever sat down and gave up. It's really interesting that you said that. I saw a TV show about a German girl who survived a plane crash in the 1970s in Peru. Have you seen it? Yes? So the plane exploded midair or something, and when it crashed, she was the only survivor. She woke up, saw her mother next to her still strapped to the seat. Everyone was dead. She starts walking through the jungle, trying to find food, ends up with infections in her wounds, and she's sure she's going to die. Then in a clearing, she's rescued, and so on. And they asked her what happened once she was saved. She eventually returned to Germany. Her family initially thought she was dead. So when you returned, what happened? And she said, well, my dad tried to sell a book, but nobody bought it. So he told me I had to get a job because we needed money and we had to work. About 2 weeks later, she was working. Doing what? At a store. And they asked, did you go to a therapist? She said, no, why would I? Well, to deal with this is one of the most traumatic things you could go through. And she simply went to a store, got a job, and moved on. Obviously, she had her own personal battles, but she kept going. And now she's giving an interview saying she continued with her life. And people will tell me I'm wrong, but this is evidence that it's possible. It's crazy. When bad things have happened to me, like when my father died or whatever, I never allowed myself to wake up and think, maybe I'm depressed. It wasn't even in my realm of possibility. It wasn't even in my sphere. I'm upset about this. Sometimes, sure, but I have work to do. Things need to get done, and I don't see why that would be harmful to anyone. But of course, people are too stupid to understand that. It's very basic. It's very basic. But this is the reality of the world. And people absolutely idolize anything. Personally, I don't like it. I'm against the music industry entirely. I'm fully convinced the music industry is a perfect example of how to control idiots. Because I sit there and I see Rihanna and she has the best life ever and is ridiculously rich. It's like, does she even play an instrument? Probably not. Does she write the music? Number, everything is produced for her. They take her into a room and say, okay, we're gonna make a lot of money. Here are your lyrics. And she just sings them. And I'm like, what the hell? It's insane. And that's sold to people. Somehow they'll put her on the radio so many times that people will like it no matter what. Then people buy it and she'll go to a concert and there'll be people in the crowd treating her like she's Jesus. Obviously, I've never been to a concert in my life, but I think she doesn't even know how to play an instrument. What the hell are you telling me? You can watch it for free on YouTube. But this is the world, and as you said, nobody gives a damn about the important things. Everyone is worried about this absolute nonsense, and it's a big tapestry, it's a network. But for the same reason people externalize their problems, they also idealize someone else or externalize their source of happiness. I was eating at a restaurant by myself and overheard a guy and a girl on a date. She was sitting there listening to him, and everything they talked about while getting to know each other was about the absolute achievements of other people. I like this band, they'd say, or I like that band too. Or, have you ever been here? Everything they talked about wasn't about things they'd done, but about things others had done. It wasn't, I've done this, but I want to do that. Instead, it was, have you seen this movie? What do you think of it? What's that? Everything was about what everyone else had done. And it's surprising. If you made a movie about that person's life, they wouldn't even be the main character in their own life. They're just consumers of everyone else's achievements, and that's how people are going through the world today, and they wonder why they're unhappy because they're externalizing their happiness to some football team that doesn't even know they exist. That team has to win for you to be happy. As if you can externalize everything and have no self-control, just be a feather in the wind, then life will kick your ass. Some might say it's easy for me to say this because I'm someone who has high performance and has succeeded in everything I've tried, but many people face bigger barriers and challenges. Yes, but I had a talent for kickboxing, though this is debatable, but without all the work I put in, I wouldn't have achieved what I have. Now, if someone less talented than me had gone through everything I went through, they could have been kickboxing champions. I think they probably could have achieved it if they'd gone through all the pain I endured. The reason I work so hard is because I don't come from a privileged background. My father was a world-class chess player. He made it very clear that his children had to make their own way in the world, that we had to ensure we had food for today. So here I am, trying to do it on my own. And when he died, he didn't leave us a penny. There was no trust fund. We didn't grow up rich. We grew up very poor. When we moved to England, we were in a homeless shelter for the first year while trying to get council housing. I had all the excuses to become a criminal, but I didn't. So, people say, oh, you're lucky you could just go and train kickboxing at this gym. Getting up and running to the gym every day wasn't luck. I didn't have a car. I couldn't afford the bus. I'd run miles to train, then run another 4 miles home. That's not luck. And honestly, once again, I don't understand how people go through the world without any other mental model. They always ask me, but how do you feel? Or what about happiness or depression? How I feel doesn't even cross my mind. I don't know how else to explain it. There are days I'm angry, sad, or happy, but it doesn't even cross my mind. It's like I wake up and no matter my mood, I have things to do. It's a busy day. The manager will be here soon. I need to train before he arrives. I have a bank appointment at 7:15 a.m. and I have to do everything at once. It doesn't cross my mind whether I'm happy, sad, or excited. I just have to work. I think my mental model, to some extent, certainly isn't one of a person who doesn't feel emotions. We're all human, and we all feel them. But I've never prioritized my emotions. I haven't built a mental model where they affect me. I haven't placed them at the center of my mental model. I don't allow them to affect my actions. I don't allow them to affect my actions. On the contrary, my emotions are completely secondary to what needs to be done. I'd love to do a podcast on a day when I'm particularly sad and another when I'm particularly happy, and I guarantee you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. That's what allows me to be competitive. If you're competitive and you want to be the top predator on the planet, you have to be able to hunt both day and night. You need to be able to act when you're happy and when you're sad. You can't only act when you're happy. You can't only go to the gym when you're motivated. You can't be competent only when your life is going well, because when your life isn't going well, you're no longer competent, and then you'll lose to people like me. In this player versus player world, if you're the kind of person who can only perform when happy and you're competing against someone like me who can attack all the time, guess what will happen? You'll lose. That's the answer. The majority of my opinions are based on building a mental model that allows me to be brutally competitive. That's why I say sadness doesn't matter to me. I've argued this point endlessly and tried to explain it to people, but they're not smart enough to understand. I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't care. I'm more competitive as an individual. And I don't believe I can be depressed, so I don't care if I'm right or not. Because no matter how bad things get in my life, even if the worst things in the world happen, I think, right now I'm sad, but I have work to do. Eventually, I'll feel better. I'll never get to the point of absolute despair where I ruin my life, because I don't even focus on that idea. This world is built on super competition, especially for men. Most men are going through life not realizing the competition happening around them. It's an endless competition. Every dollar you want, someone else wants. Every girl you want, someone else wants. And there are people like me out here who will destroy you. You could have 30 men in a room and I'd sit alone and annihilate them absolutely by any metric. And they'd be there, just stumbling and wandering through life, not realizing how competitive the world is while complaining about how unfair it is. My point is, if the world is really this competitive, you don't have time to be depressed. Depression is a zero competition mindset. You might be depressed about whatever, but I'm not depressed and I want the money you want. I want the girl you want. I want the status you want, the car you want, the house you want, and I'll get it while you're getting nothing. That's the end result of your life. Tell me, who's gonna win? What I'm saying is, you're playing a game and it's a competitive game. You need to build a mindset that allows you to be ultra competitive. If you want to sit there and say you prefer a non-competitive mindset, that's fine. You know what we call people who don't win competitions, right? Losers. That's just the basic point of life. And it's interesting because everyone pretends to care, but nobody actually does. If you ask a woman what kind of man she wants, she'll never say a depressed or sad man. She'll always want a man who's ultra capable, ultra competent, so the world doesn't care. The world has never cared about a sad man. So if you sit there and see yourself as a sad man, you'll have a life where nobody gives a damn and you'll perpetually lose. And that's your decision. The idea of that terrifies me to the point where I won't even accept it as a possible reality. I don't care what happens in my life, how bad it gets, or if the worst and most atrocious things I can imagine happen. I know that my sadness and heartbreak will be temporary because I'll never stay a loser. It goes against my creed. It doesn't matter whether I'm happy or sad, I'll keep going and do what I have to do. That's my job. It's my duty as a man, and that's what I'm going to do. If you're going to doubt yourself, I understand why many people do. A lot of people doubt themselves because they're incompetent. You'd have to be a megalomaniac not to doubt yourself if you're incompetent, right? If you're an idiot, if you're bad, or if you're terrible at things, of course, you'll doubt yourself because you fail all the time. The only way you'll stop doubting yourself is if you prove a certain level of competence. If you become a competent person and succeed perpetually, like me, you won't doubt yourself. I don't doubt myself because I never fail. So why would I doubt myself when I never fail? On the other hand, if everything I ever did was fail all the time, of course, I'd doubt myself. Your mindset is strongly linked to your reality, and the fact that most people have weak mindsets comes from having a weak life, a weak body, a weak social circle, a weak network, a weak bank account, a weak relationship, and then their mind is weak. Of course, if you had a group of soldiers around you, men who were dedicated and willing to risk it all with you, if you were strong, if your woman would never leave you no matter what because she idolizes you, then your mindset would be strong. Your mind would be strong. So if someone comes to me and says, I doubt myself, I usually look at them and say, yeah, I understand. Because you're a fat piece of garbage and stupid. Of course you do. If I were you, I'd doubt myself too. How can I deal with procrastination and laziness? Why are you asking me that question? Why are you on this podcast asking me how to stop procrastinating? Turn off YouTube. Do something. You know the answer. Stop doing things that waste your time and dedicate yourself to something important. Maybe this isn't a waste of time, but let me tell you, you're clearly foolish. It's like Googling how to get fit, like you just said. Everyone knows what a push-up is. Stop wasting your damn time. I've never had to deal with procrastination. I've never had to deal with lack of motivation. Because what's the alternative? Literally being a loser forever. I'm tired of reading nonsense on the internet saying, oh, some people just take longer to bloom. Your moment will come. Let me tell you something. 99.9% of people who are born poor, stay poor, remain poor, and die poor. That's reality for almost everyone. You know the answer. You don't need me to tell you. Why are you asking men who don't know you personally how to stop wasting your time? I don't even know what you're doing to waste your time. You already know the damn answer. My kickboxing coach used to say to me when I'd show up at the gym, what do you hate most? And I'd say, I hate running. He'd say, good, you're going to run. I'd ask why, and he'd say, because whatever you hate is what you need. I wanted to spar, work with the bag, and use the pads, no problem, but running, I didn't want to run, but that's what you need, that's how life works. You won't get through life avoiding pain and simultaneously become a quality man. You're gonna have to be that guy who has been through so much crap that he can wake up and say, this is nothing. This is nothing compared to before. This is nothing compared to that time. And if you're not gonna be that guy, then you'll always suffer the consequences of not being that guy. There's pain in becoming important, and there's pain in not being important. So you have to make a decision. You need to find something that scares you, something that can hurt you, and you need to do it. That's one of the great things about being young, because you're basically a superhuman. All of us in our 30s remember when we were 21. I could drink all night, run 20 miles, and I wouldn't even get hurt. It was like I had Wolverine's healing abilities. And this is one of the problems with the world today. I've noticed the internet is ruining this because we have all these young people with a voice. Everyone thinks they know something on Twitter or Facebook, but they're kids. When I was 23 or 22, I didn't know anything. Now I'm 35, and I'm one of the smartest men on the planet. When I was 23, I didn't know a damn thing. So when you're 23, like you are now, you don't know anything, and your only attribute is that you have Wolverine-like healing powers, and you're not using them. Stop talking, start listening, get out there, take your hits, and get back up. But there's a degree of wisdom that comes from physicality. I learned a lot about the world simply by getting beaten up. It wasn't even conversations, it was just being hit and learning about the world. I write tweets and people say, that's so wise. Where did you learn that? Well, I learned it by getting kicked in the face. That's how. I don't pray for an easy life. I pray for a life full of hardships that allows me to become a better person. I pray to become more competent in handling problems. I pray to be in a position where if the media machine tries its hardest to destroy my life, I can laugh and smile. That's the reason I pray. I don't pray for nobody to hurt me. I pray to be able to fight. It's a different mindset. I think many people build their mentalities around trying to feel good. That's why we were talking earlier about people who want to ignore the idea of personal responsibility because it feels better to pretend it's not real. They feel better if they pretend it's all someone else's fault. Many people's mental models and the way they see the world are built around feeling as good as possible. But I've always tried to base my mindset on absolute competition, regardless of how I might feel. And certainly there are downsides to that. There will be times when you're more pessimistic, more stressed, or angrier about certain things than others. That might be seen as a disadvantage. But as I said, I use all those things as unlimited motivation to fuel my endless upward trajectory. If you build a mindset that allows you to be as competent as possible, instead of trying to feel different or feel better, you'll naturally reach the conclusions I have. You're as competent as you can be if you believe absolutely everything that happens to you, whether good or bad, is entirely your responsibility. You're as competent as you can be if you think the bad things that happen to you allow you to work harder and become even better. When bad things happen to me, the first words out of my mouth are good, good, good. That's simply my response. Like, good, good. Now I'm really pissed off. This mindset I've built allows me to be the most fearsome competitor possible. It makes me a feared opponent in any field of human endeavor, and that's the point of a mindset. Why would you have a mindset that made you anything less? In the ultra-competitive world we just discussed, where everyone wants the things you have, why would you absorb information or build a mental model that doesn't let you be as competitive as possible? I'm a feared competitor in everything I do. Anyone who faces me in anything feels a degree of nervousness, no matter what it is. They feel nervous because they know me, they know my mindset, they know I'm stubborn, they know I don't quit, they know they can't win anymore. That's simply who I am. I've built a mental model that allows me to be competent and successful always. And that's how I've come to the conclusions I've reached. You asked me about the mindset of men. My answer is to explain that, as a man, you don't have the luxury of saying, oops, I don't feel like doing it. My point is, it's player versus player. If you're a man who constantly gives in to your feelings or the inconveniences of your mindset, you won't be able to compete with men who don't. We can validate men's emotions completely if they have them. Absolutely. Men who struggle with emotions, I wish them the best in the world. But when they come to me and say, Andrew, I have this problem, I'm depressed and I can't go to the gym, I tell them, no, I disagree. You're depressed because you don't go to the gym. If you went to the gym, you might start to feel better. I'm saying that as a man, you don't have the luxury of saying, today I'm sad, today I'm stressed, today I'm emotional, today I can't work. Because you'll lose to the men who don't feel that way, and the male world is more competitive than you could ever imagine. And women choose the winners. So I find it very interesting when a woman sits here and tells me, no, men are allowed to sit and do nothing and feel sad. And those are the men they ignore when they DM them. They ignore them all. Did you get emotional when you were in jail? Did you shed tears for yourself? I'm an emotional man. I think men are hyper emotional. We just have to control it. I was extremely busy inside my cell. I had a lot of push-ups to do. I was very worried about the people on the outside. I was doing my best to get out. It's hard for me to answer the question because it was an interesting mental state. I knew God was watching me and I had to act. It's very hard for me to go through life saying I'm the best, I'm this, I'm that, talking about mental resilience and toughness, and then the moment I'm thrown into solitary confinement to back down and cower. I'm not that person. There are others who talk about mental toughness and want to give advice, but when bad things happen to them, they end up addicted to prescription medication. I'm not a coward and I'm not a liar, but it would be perfectly natural to feel emotions in that scenario, and there's no shame in admitting it. I felt emotional. I missed people. I missed them, and I knew they missed me too. So I experienced a strong feeling of exile. But did you cry? Were there tears running down your face? Tears may have run down my face, but I didn't cry. Well, that's crying. I disagree. Are you worried about admitting you cried? Absolutely not. It's a perfectly acceptable scenario to cry. But I think the act of crying is an act of desperation. Sitting and crying is an act in itself. Doing push-ups thinking about your kids, with tears running down your face, but worrying about completing as many push-ups as possible in that day, I don't consider that crying. I just consider it tears running down my face. The world is hyper-competitive against men like me, and there have to be losers for there to be winners. I'm tired of sympathy. Sympathy doesn't work for anyone. I'm not going to sit here and have sympathy for people who say they're too sad to try their best and give their all. Maybe I was sad every time I did exactly what I was supposed to do, and I trained anyway. Maybe I was scared when I fought anyway. Maybe I was tired when I worked anyway. That's how you move forward in life. I don't have an ounce of sympathy for these people who sit here and say, well, I feel this way, so I can't do it. Then don't. Stay down. The winners are at the top, and the winners at the top don't give a damn how they feel. We wake up and act regardless of how we feel, day after day. So if I'm going to ignore my own feelings, I'm certainly not going to consider anyone else's feelings. Why should I ignore how I feel and make sure I'm constantly acting impeccably just to sit and say, oh, but it doesn't feel good, so I'll allow it? No, you're not allowed to let down your ancestors, God, or yourself. You must act. That's how it is. This is what it means to be a man. The very essence of masculinity is doing things you don't feel like doing. If this video brought value to your life, show your support with a like, subscribe to stay focused on your journey, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're ready to dress like a true alpha, visit our store, link in the description. With every purchase, you're not only representing a community of superior men, but also directly supporting this channel to keep delivering impactful content like this. Join the movement. Become the man you're meant to be.